O Great Spirit, most beloved Lord of life, in all of thy names and all of thy forms, O ye powers that be, of the air, the earth, the fire, water, ether, most beloved ancestors of all of our lineages, our bloodlines, adopted lines, spiritual lines, marriage lines, friendship lines, wisdom lines, O ye helpers in all realms of existence, Namaste. Most beloved Gurus of the Holy Kriya lineage, Om Shri Babaji Yanamaha, Om Shri Lahiri Mahasayaji Yanamaha, Om Shri Teshwarji Yanamaha, Om Shri Paramahansa Yoganandaji Yanamaha, Om Shri Shaliji Yanamaha, Om Shri Kriyanandaji Yanamaha. Sweep clear our paths, most beloved and precious Ishtadevata, in all of thy names and all of thy forms. Bless us with thy presence. Bless us with the knowledge and awareness of thy presence. Thou art with us always. Sweep clear the fogginess that we might see thee, that we might feel thee, that we might rest and bask in thy presence. Om Shanti. 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 Om Shanti. 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 Om Shanti. 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 Om. 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 Namaste. Welcome. Welcome to my heart. Welcome to our noon meditation. Thank you for joining and bringing the blessing of your presence to this meditation today. Once upon a yogi time, in the ever-present now, there lived a woman, young woman, just barely into adulthood. She had a son. It was an unexpected event and a disruptive event, if you will. From the moment that she held the son, she wondered what he was thinking. How did he feel about being in this place. Oh, my dear son, only until you can speak to me and tell me how you feel. I wait for the days that we can share our most intimate thoughts. And the son, silently saying back to mother, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. Just you wait. A few years go by. The baby begins to talk. Oh, tell me, how are you doing today? How are you feeling today? Oh, my son, how are you doing today? How are you feeling today? Three years go by. Another baby comes, another boy. That one was chit-chatty, chit-chatty, chit-chatty. He gets to be 2, the other one's 5. Mother still, oh, my son, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? Tell me how you feel today. Oh, I so much want to know what you're thinking about life. The day arrives. The oldest son is 8. The baby is 5. And what happens? The oldest son, mother, oh, I want to know how you're thinking. I want to know how you are. The older son goes and hides behind the baby. Save me from her. Save me from her. She won't stop. She wants me to talk about my feelings. Save me. And he runs to the bedroom and slams the door. Well, a few more iterations of that, if you will. And the oldest is 16, the youngest is 13, the oldest is 19, the youngest is 16, the oldest is 40, the youngest is 37. And the oldest keeps saying, I don't want to talk about my feelings. And the mother keeps sticking her face in the oldest and saying, tell me how you are, son. Tell me how you're feeling. I want to know how you're feeling. I want to know if you're well. Until there becomes a massive divide between the two of them that had built up from the time that the child was very young. The mother, on her side, felt that it was important to know what the other is feeling. What are they thinking? What's important to them? And the son, from his side, feeling, it's my business. It's none of yours. I don't want to talk to you about that. I don't want to share that with you. Leave me alone. And as he got older, he kept saying, leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. Until he reached a stage of manhood where the division between the mother and the son was great. Very, very, very great. The mother did everything she could to gain the son's approval. It didn't work. It didn't work. Didn't work for 30 years, didn't work for 40 years, didn't work for 50 years. Into 50 years. And finally one day the mother said, this is making me miserable. Absolutely miserable. I'm doing something wrong. I'm very unhappy. Mother is unhappy. All these years I've been trying to get him to communicate the way I want him to, and he doesn't. She reflects deeply. She says, the problem is I keep asking him how he feels. And for 50 years, half a century, he's been telling me he's not going to talk about that. He doesn't want to talk about that. And I've ignored every single time he said that. Every time I've ignored it. And I've pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. Until no matter how I humble myself, I feel I never had his approval. Now, one has to step back and say, well, all right, who's the bad guy here? You go to the son's perspective and all he can see is she won't respect me. She doesn't respect me. She won't leave me alone. She keeps wanting to mold me into her image, and she won't see my image, and she won't accept my image. And therefore I want nothing to do with her. Very, very hard situation. Something has to give. Someone has to give. Where are you in that story? Who are you in relationship to that you feel that they have to do something the way you want them to? The conflicts around the world are on the earth are all because we want the other person to do exactly what we want, as we want it, how we want it. We are seeing one state of consciousness, and that is whatever it is that is formulated, filtered through our ego self, filtered through your ascendant, if you will, the way in which you look at the world. But what is so easily forgotten is that there's an opposite. Oh, there's somebody that's just the opposite of me. If I want to feel something because I want to intuit it, and the other person wants to analyze it, they want the logical view, it's conflict. It causes division, it causes war, it causes upset. Because neither party can see. They're right at the same place, the same level, and they're right opposite each other. Is this one right or is this one right? Which one's right? I don't know. Do you? Now, sometimes those relationships are between a mother and a son, a father and a daughter, grandparents and grandchildren. Sometimes they're about showing your feelings. Sometimes they're about the way you choose to, your work in your life, your belief system, your theological viewpoint, the way you handle money. The river is continuous. The variations of why the differences are 1,000-fold, even more so than that. Something must be done. Something must be done to stop the constant with others. I know it's people don't like the speed limit, and so they go as fast as they want to. People don't like what other people believe, and so they decide that they don't deserve to be on the earth anymore. The polarity of thought forms that are becoming solidified is quite strong at this time. Now, no thought is singular. You must always remember that. No thought is singular. They come in groupets. They have friends. They're gluey. I can have a thought that this is blue. I like blue. See, this is blue. It's linked to another thought. I like blue. And then it's linked to another thought about how many different variations of blue there are. It doesn't come alone. No thought is singular. Now, this can be marvelous or it can be quite difficult, because if we lock into one what we think is one thought or one view. No, we take the thumb and we block out the sun. We take two thumbs and we can't see anything. And isn't that interesting? Two thumbs up here, I can't see. I suppose I could take a thumb and partially block it. Yeah, I can see a little bit with that. Just a little bit. But the problem is, if we walk through life like that, we walk through life with these thoughts that we have grouped together, one thought that we have become relative to, and say, this is the right thought. For thoughts are eternal, thoughts are immortal. They don't just come down, they're not new. There is no such thing as a new thought. There is, however, such a thing as a thought which is newly relative to you because you are walking in a particular time-space continuum. You know, inventions around the world, you know that they are not, no invention ever occurs in one place at one time. You know, the time gate opens, the place opens, and the invention will pop up. 2, 3 places in the world, 4 places in the world. People have been working on it. So maybe it, you know, this one pops up 30 seconds earlier than that one does. But in the continuum of time, it's not singular. Now, what does that do? Wow. In the case of that mother and son, it's a pretty big mess. Painful, emotionally painful, I am told. But what does it do to you and all of those others with whom you have that relationship, that opposition? And what is to be done? Well, it's not really very difficult. But in a sense, the first thing that's required is to take off the blinders for just a nanosecond, just a little bit, not a lot. So you don't have to be afraid that you're going to lose your identity by taking off the blinders. Because that's the biggest fear, isn't it? That if I can see the other's viewpoint, I've lost my identity. Who am I if I can see the other's viewpoint? If my view is not right, who am I? And the sense of self begins to waver and insecurities arise. Now, you are a part of life. You, the microcosm, is a part of this macrocosm. That's who you are. You're a part of all of it. And the only way to experientially have that awareness that you are a part of that is to let go of the blinders. Let go of your biases, your prejudices, your preferences, your desires. Particularly those which are most subtle. Tell me about your feelings. I want to have a nice conversation with you. I want it to be meaningful. How's the weather? Hey, did you see the game last night? Hey, did you hear the newly released Beach Boys song? Beach Boys album? What do we need to do? Spiritually, what needs to be done? And really, what needs to be done to walk more comfortably in the world? Because that's what the whole spiritual path is about. We're here embodied in a human body, having an earthling's experience. You are spirit embodied in matter. You're having an earthling's experience. What needs to be done? You need to learn how to live on this earth, to be happy. I asked someone the other day, what do you think the most important thing to do? What's the most important thing primary thing on the earth. Really surprised me what the man said. He said, well, I think the most important thing is to learn to be happy and to help others learn to be happy. Again, not one thing, but they were linked. Learn to be happy and to help others learn to be happy. Seems like a pretty reasonable thing to me, but what is happiness? It really is learning to recognize where you are. What is this place that we are living upon, living within? And how does one see what this is? Well, there are states of consciousness, and in yoga we divide them into 12. But really, we begin with the conjunction, the zero, what you think is yourself, what you think is yourself, what you identify as yourself, what you identify as your ego. And we begin by doing tarka, a deep kind of a reflection. Who is this self that you think you are? And when you say that, you begin with that reflection. It really, you take a pen and paper and who do you believe you are? Who are you in this? And reflect deeply on the thoughts that come up. You just write it down, and look at it and see what is revealed. The deep thing with the tarka is to contemplate, to reflect, to see what arises in your consciousness, what your mind allows to arise, what arises from the subconscious mind, from the unconscious mind, rather from the unconscious, the subconscious to the conscious. Now you've looked at the self, and then you need to look at the other, the opposite. The opposite is the next place to look. 180 degrees, opposite. If you value analysis, the opposite is somebody who values intuition. Now, it doesn't mean there's not gradations in between, but it means you're trying to understand for just a moment the possibility of looking at the earth through another lens, through another view. Now, let me stop. This is a side story, if you will. In the path of Kriya, there is the awareness that there are different kinds of experiences. In the path of Kriya, in the path of mysticism, we seek the primary experience, a direct primary experience. That is you having an experience directly, me having an experience directly. Not me, not you watching me, right? So here I am using my fan from Spain, someplace in Spain. I can't remember where at the moment. This is a primary experience for me. I'm looking at the fan, I'm holding the fan up, I've waved the fan. I remember now being in Sevilla, and I remember seeing the fans, and then I remember I didn't get the fan in Sevilla. I got the fan in Granada. The man was painting it. All right, so I have the fan in my hand. I see the painting. I remember seeing fans in Sevilla, And then I remember the man that painted the fan in Granada. But what do you have? That was a secondary experience. You see me holding the fan. So your primary experience is watching me hold the fan. But I can feel the air when I move the fan. All you can do is see. It's a secondary experience. You're watching me have the primary experience. And you have no experience of this other than what you have seen. Where I have experiences of this linked to multiple events from the past. Very important. My experience to this is linked to multiple events from the past. Your experience of it is linked to watching me, to hearing me give you a portion of, a minuscule portion of my experiences from the past. That is a secondary experience. But now you go home and you tell your son or daughter, oh, you know, they make fans in Sevilla and Granada. People paint them and they have beautiful images on them. You can buy them in the shops and you can buy them on the streets where the artists are painting themselves. That is a tertiary experience. If you have not been there, if you have not had the primary experience, but you've only seen part of my experience, but look what happened. You've taken that secondary experience and you've told a story about it. You've gone to your child and you've added on. You haven't said, oh, I saw this morning. You've said, do you know that they do this and this and this? And you've embellished it with your view, possibly with your combining experiences from the past into this primary experience. So what's happened? You haven't had that primary pure experience. We need to be able to lift up, lift, to have that primary experience. Because the child goes on and the child goes to his friend and says, you know that all the ladies in Spain have fans? And there you have not a tertiary experience, but 4 times out. And it goes on and on and on and on until the primary experience is diluted. Now you can say, well, it's only a fan. And if that's all I were talking about, it would be fine. But you know, as well as I do, probably better, that we live our lives, generally speaking, not through primary experiences, but through an experience that was told to us by someone who the other person got that experience told to them. Another person told that experience. They saw it in a movie and they told you about it. Every telling, the prism shifts one way or the other. Every telling, the prism shifts one way or the other. And the thought form that you give priority to, that you like better than any other, and it's what it is. When you grab onto a thought form that you hold and make your own, you're just saying, I like this one better than all the others. There are trillions, more than trillions of thought forms. But when you grab one and you become enmeshed in that, this is the right one. You're discarding all the others. All you're doing is giving it preference. You're saying, I like you better than any other. One of the most psychologically shocking experiences that I ever had spiritually in my life came, don't know, probably a long time ago. It doesn't matter how long ago. And I was listening to my guru, right? So this is he's telling me an experience about his guru. So here it is, a secondary experience from him that I'm getting, but it was still shocking. And he said this, he said, I asked my guru one day if Kriya Yoga was the best path. I'm sitting there on the floor, right in front of him, good yogi posture. Eyes shut, listening carefully. I know what he's going to say. Leans forward. And Shelley said to me, no, Kriyananda ji. No, Kriyanandi. Kriya Yoga is not the best path. I opened my eyes. I was so shocked. And Shelley, according to Pranananda, said, it's the best path that I have found for myself at this time. I continue to practice and I continue to search. Wow. That's a state of consciousness. It's the primary path, the primary spiritual path that he has chosen to follow in his life. And he is saying, yeah, it is not the best. It is the best for me at this time that I have chosen to study. That's the horizon of awareness. It says, wow, I want to see what's there. I want to know what's there. I want the primary experience to be mine in terms of determining what is right, what is the right path, the right way for me to follow. Thus, it has to be the same for you. The greatest of the yoga asanas that we have is lifting up one foot, putting it down, lifting up the other foot, putting it down, and lifting up the Saturn chakra and standing on your own 2 feet. To be able to see through that primary experience what is really vital for you to see at this time, not what the church said. It doesn't matter which church it is. It doesn't matter which priest it is. It doesn't matter which Swami it is, which rabbi it is, which imam it is. It doesn't matter. And this is the difficulty, is that there is this feeling state. It's not a feeling state. It's a frozen emotional state, that what you must do is what someone else tells you to do. A primary experience is a primary experience. It's you having that experience. And so you want God consciousness. You don't want to dream about God consciousness. You don't want to hear about what the 5th Pope said about God consciousness. You want to experience it yourself. And this is what mysticism and the path of Kriya is about. But experiencing life means that you must be open to experiencing or seeing at least the view of others. There's a Swami whom I have a great deal of respect for. Respect all of them, but this is someone who's quite special. And he was a soldier. I guess you could say perhaps he still is. I'm not sure what he would define himself as, but he was deployed to the Middle East 3 times during his tenure as a soldier. And the last time he was there, he recognized that he had come away with a great division between himself and the others. A lot of hatred, a lot of anger, a great division. And he was leaving the country, and he says he saw a man of his age there. And it was a satori, a sudden satori, an insight, if you will. And he realized that if it were not for the place that he was born, he could be here. He could be born, he could have been born, and he could be that man that he had been fighting against. His beliefs, which were here, could be here. And it was the first time he felt, he said, a splintering open of his awareness. Oh my, all this time I have thought that they were the bad guys. And I didn't realize that the only reason I think that they're the bad guys is because of where I was born and what I was taught. Had I been born, they're the same age. He looked at the man and he saw himself and said, oh, that could be me. I could be seen differently. The path of mysticism is the ability to see that, to say, oh yes, I see. I may not agree, I don't have to like it, but I need to be able to see it, to understand it, to be able to see what the other is experiencing. And so I've said it in 5 different ways. The path of Kriya is about you being able to experience for yourself life directly, to experience life. Now, one of the wonderful things about Kriya is that you can experience life through observing others' experiences. So you're not having the primary experience of their pain or their joy, but you are having your experience of observing that joy or that pain. One of the most important awarenesses that we can have is to be aware that our unconscious mind cannot distinguish between that which we have as a primary physical experience, that which we read about, that which we see through movies, or that which we hear about. The memory will show it all as the same degree of experience, the same kind of experience, perhaps with greater intensity. And here is really the deep mysticism. You have an experience, and that's a primary experience. You remember that. It's a memory of the experience. You remember it again, it's the memory of the memory. Then the memory of the memory of the memory. Then the memory of the memory of the memory of the memory. But what happens when you are at the memory of 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 the memory? You have been feeding that initial memory, and you have strengthened that memory, and you have solidified it so that it has gone from being a very subtle state of consciousness to being a much grosser state of consciousness, to being a very, 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 very solid state of consciousness. If you can do that with your happiness and your joy, it is most remarkable. If you could do that, if your attunement to the divine, it is most wonderful part of life. To feed the goodness in your life, to feed the joy in your life. But too often, we feed that which is not good. We feed that which is confining. We feed that which is difficult. And today, it is fed and can be fed very effectively, very efficiently through technology. You're watching a video again and again and again and again, and you are seeing one viewpoint of a primary experience, but you're feeding it again and again and again, and feeding it in different time space continuums until it becomes much more solid. Let that which you feed be something that is expansive for you. Let that which you feed be something that is good, that expands your horizon of awareness, that brings joy and love to you, that brings happiness to you, that allows you to say, ah, yes, 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 yes. You smell the sweetness of the flower. And it fills every cell of your being. And again and again and again, you do the same. All that we've been talking about this morning, everything requires that you lift up above this level. You must lift higher. You must see higher. You must see from a higher realm. So you take a part of your consciousness and you lift it up 18 inches above your head. So you're outside of the chakra system. You're outside of the wheel of karma. You're outside of the natal horoscope. And without judgment, you are watching. So without judgment, you can see from a higher level, oh yeah, I see. Yeah, it's the desert over there. It's too much water over here. There's starvation, there's abundance. Where is the balance? And lift and lift and lift and lift. The key to seeing all of the states of consciousness is to recognize that what you are striving for is your primary experience, and knowing and being aware of your primary experience, not mine, not Kriyanandi's, not your husband's, not your wife, not your children, your experience, because your experience is the karma, my dear. It's a karma. Your reaction to an event that you have seen, that you have participated in, or that you have heard about or read about, your reaction is the primary experience. Seek to see clearly yourself. And I will close with this in honor of the woman that said it to me all the time. My beloved mother-in-law, whom I love very much. Really, really a good mind she had. But there was one thing that she used to ask me all the time. Honey, what are we supposed to believe? What are you supposed to believe? And my answer was always the same. Mom, what do you believe? What do you think? Or even better, Mom, what do you know is true? She would tell me. One day I said to her, do you ever tell your friends this? She said, no, I don't ever talk to anybody about this except you. They wouldn't approve. They would think I was losing it. No. We don't talk about this. Great blessing to me. Great blessing. Because she knew what she thought was right. But she wanted to know what she was supposed to believe. And whether you know it or not, whether we're conscious of it or not, we all have that in us. We all want to know what the other wants us to believe. And the mystical path is about what you know. what you've experienced as your primary experience, not what another wants you to believe. Know that and become joy-filled. And so we will go to our meditation to close our time together. But remember, all that has been said here this morning, we cause conflict with others because we try to convince them again and again and again and again to live the way that we want them to. We try to convince them. Cause conflict with others because we will not let them be themselves. We try to reshape them in our images. And your life and my life needs to be about having our primary experiences, not about what anybody else thinks about us. Namaste. Sit with your spine erect, placing your hands on your thighs in the Om Mudra. Turning your head to the left with a double exhalation. And bringing the head back to the center, beginning to watch the breath. Pulling the energy from the limbs of the body to the trunk of the body. Use the sipping breath. From the trunk to the spinal column. From the base of the spine to the sun center. Move that energy as golden light out in front of you and sweep it around to the left, behind you and in front of you, encasing your entire being in golden light. And do this 2 more times. Expand that golden light. And now ascend upward. Move your awareness as high as you are able in the universe. Above the room, building, the country, the continent. Ascend to the high place. Reaching the high place, you see in front of you the highest Himalayan mountains. Choose one and ascend to the top of the mountain. Find a comfortable place to rest at the top of the mountain. The sky is clear. You can see into infinity. Turn counterclockwise slowly, watching the view change. As you turn, you see now all of the valleys, all of the hills. You see in front of you the experiences, the symbols of all of the beings upon the earth. As you complete your circle, as you complete your turn, be aware of all of the images that have come to your mind. Returning to the spot you began. Realize that now, at this moment, you can see the whole. You are high enough that you can see all around you. Let your consciousness rise again and again and again, higher and higher and higher. You see from above the earth plane. O ye powers of ye, pour forth thy blessings at this moment. Fill our awareness with light, with insight, letting go the veils, dropping the rocks, letting go our biases and prejudices, that from this view we might see clearly. The golden dewdrops of bliss from the Anandic realms pour forth upon thee. Om Ananda, Nanda, 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 Nanda. Om Ananda, Om Ananda, Om Ananda, Om Ananda. Let the bliss from the realms pour forth upon thee, filling every cell of thy being, expanding thy horizon of awareness, filling thy being with bliss, bliss, bliss. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. As thy gaze rests upon the earth from this high, high realm, be filled with the awareness of that which thou art. Ananda, 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 Ananda. Da, da. Holding this feeling state at your sun center, remembering it, remember. Ascend again and again and again as high as thou art able to see the other, to see in all directions, to peel free for a moment the limit and see the eternity. Thou art blessed. Using your time and your talents, become an ever greater blessing unto all of those who enter your aura. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And when you are ready, return gently to the earth realm.